Greenpoint, the northernmost neighborhood of Brooklyn. Separated from Queens by a 3.5-mile waterway, the Newtown Creek. Once upon a time, a place of remarkable natural beauty.
The first European voyagers up the East River encountered a green point at the mouth of the creek that gave Greenpoint its name. Until the Industrial Revolution, it was a really, really green and verdant place.
That Industrial Revolution in the 1800s transformed Greenpoint. Industry of all types, including oil refining, lined Newtown Creek's shores. And with little or no concern for the environment, it was a free-for-all.
The pollutants evolved as the industries evolved, all dumping in the creek with no regard for any kind of natural environment. There are stories in the paper all the way back to 100 to 150 years about the stink of the creek. The creek became famous for its smell.
More than a century later, many oil refineries still called Newtown Creek home. And then in 1978, a startling discovery was made.
The Coast Guard discovered via helicopter a stream of oil coming off the Greenpoint shoreline, which led to investigation and the quote-unquote discovery of the Greenpoint oil spill, which at that time was the largest oil spill in the history of the country.
The size of that spill? Up to 30 million gallons.
A massive underground oil spill in Brooklyn may be far worse than anyone knew.
Still, it took time for the Greenpoint community to understand the impact of all that oil leaking into the creek and also into the soil beneath their homes, contaminating over 50 acres of Greenpoint, an area the size of 40 football fields.
When you are talking about the impact of oil, it's not something tangible. It's very intangible. I mean, people were getting sick in some of these buildings. They might have had leukemia and other sicknesses. They were not aware of the fact that that might be from the vapor intrusion that's coming through their houses.
In the late 1990s, local community activists already fighting other polluters teamed up with Riverkeeper, a New York-based clean water advocate, to demand justice. In response, the New York Attorney General filed a lawsuit against several oil companies alleged to be responsible, including ExxonMobil.
We started to catch on that the polluters had to be dealt with. It didn't happen by itself. It happened by the environmentalists pestering the government and the attorney generals of the state taking action against the polluters.
In 2010, then New York Attorney General Andrew Cuomo announced a landmark settlement requiring ExxonMobil to fully clean up its oil spill. The settlement also created a $19.5 million fund, at the time the largest payment of its kind in New York State history, to help reverse Greenpoint's legacy of environmental abuse and neglect. From this fund, the New York Attorney General's Office and the Department of Environmental Conservation created the Greenpoint Community Environmental Fund, called GCEF for short. From its inception, GCEF was designed to be as much by the residents of Greenpoint as it was for them.
Greenpoint's a special place. I think the community is uniquely knowledgeable and uniquely invested in its environment and its environmental future. And early on in the program, we realized that this was a community that wanted to play and should play a partnership role in investing that $19.5 million that was obtained in the settlement.
One of GCEF's first steps, creating a community advisory panel, comprised of Greenpoint residents and representatives of local organizations, to help guide the program's development and implementation.
There seemed to be no aspect of the fund's management that wasn't offered to the CAP for review and discussion.
Through a competitive process, a partnership of the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation and Greenpoint's own North Brooklyn Development Corporation was chosen to help administer the program. GCEF also held brainstorming meetings, open to all Greenpointers, to establish the community's priorities for improving their environment. And local residents and organizations were encouraged and assisted by GCEF to develop their own ideas for environmental projects that could be funded.
We wanted the program to be bottoms up. And as a part of the sort of brainstorming we did early on in the project, we encouraged members of the community to come forward with their ideas and help them turn those ideas into projects.
When it came to deciding which projects to fund, the GCEF process was designed to be fair, objective, and inclusive. The request for proposals was written with the Community Advisory Panel and gave applicants a detailed roadmap for getting their proposals funded by GCEF. Project proposals were reviewed and scored by a panel of independent experts. And the largest dollar projects were selected through a process that directly involved Greenpoint residents, giving them a central role in choosing which projects were funded.
This is like the best thing of all. This is democracy. And we showed everybody that you can pick up a project and you don't have to have all of these different influences, and it could be very honestly done.
At each step of the way, keeping the Greenpoint community involved in the GCEF program was a top priority. A host of outreach tools, including a comprehensive website, dedicated Twitter and Instagram feeds, frequent email updates, and annual newsletters, kept Greenpointers informed about the program, its projects, and their accomplishments.
There was very few people that didn't know anything about it. I don't think there were any. We reached out to schools, we reached out to churches, we reached out to anybody and anyone who was willing to do it.
Each project that ultimately won funding, 47 in all, addressed one of 4 environmental priorities identified by the community at those initial brainstorming meetings. With relatively few public spaces and a rapidly growing population, Greenpointers chose enhancing parks and open space as one of their top priorities. Several GCEF-funded projects focused on improving existing open spaces in the community. GCEF helped the Java Street Garden, Lenthal Garden, and 61 Franklin Street Garden add more plantings, infrastructure, and membership, while installing rainwater collection, solar power, and other features that will sustain these community gardens into the future.
And look how small this bulb is.
With GCEF funding, an unused section of McCarran Park was transformed into an urban farm and demonstration garden, giving local students and community groups hands-on gardening instruction and experience. And a cement yard at the Monitor School got a makeover, turning it into a pollinator garden and open-air classroom.
Good night, guys. Have a good winter.
Other GCEF projects focused on creating new open spaces in the community. The Gateway to Greenpoint project developed a plan to turn a 12,000 square foot industrial property into green space. And a novel idea to build a 7-acre park underneath the Kosciuszko Bridge received GCEF funding to create conceptual plans, convincing New York State to greenlight the project and fund its construction.
The park on the Kosciuszko Bridge was an idea, and it probably would have been only an idea for a long time if it wouldn't be for the GCEF.
Community greening is another top environmental priority identified by Greenpoint residents. The GCEF-funded Curb Your Litter project organized community cleanups that removed over 4 tons of litter from Greenpoint streets and taught residents how to reduce their waste footprint.
3, 2, 1.
As part of this project, GCEF also funded an acclaimed documentary produced by local high school students about the impacts of trash on the Greenpoint community. Another GCEF community greening effort planted over 600 new street and park trees and gave away 500 more to residents to plant in their yards. Greenpointers were also trained as tree stewards to care for Greenpoint's trees over the long term.
You did most of that.
And the largest GCEF grant, over $5 million, helped fund the construction of a new public library in Greenpoint that integrates state-of-the-art green building features. The new library serves as an environmental education center, the first of its kind in the Brooklyn Public Library system, that will provide an enduring resource for Greenpointers to learn about their community's environmental legacy.
It will be the place where you can find everything and anything that has happened on environment in Greenpoint, where the future generation could learn what this community has gone through in order to be where it is.
GCEF supported the creation of a 22,000 square foot green roof on top of an industrial building in Greenpoint. Known as Kingsland Wildflowers, it's a model for how green roofs benefit our environment and has inspired the creation of more green roofs in Greenpoint.
Green roofs, what we're standing on, is sort of this incredible service space, right? It's cleaning the air, it's cleaning the water, it's reducing the air temperature, right? It's creating natural habitat.
A third top priority for the Greenpoint community is restoring its waterfront. On the East River, GCEF funded planning for the ecologically friendly restoration of the shoreline along the site of a future museum dedicated to the USS Monitor, a legendary Civil War ironclad built in Greenpoint.
If we continue to have the land the way we have it now, another 5 to 10 years, where we're standing probably be the shoreline.
On the Newtown Creek, GCEF supported a water quality monitoring project, tracking bacteria, oxygen, and other measures of the waterway's health.
So this is our first sample from Apollo Street, and as you can see, it actually looks pretty clean.
The creek is still one of the most polluted waterways in the country. A GCEF grantee, the Newtown Creek Alliance, is working to change that through science, education, and advocacy.
We actually use a lot of the information to inform our discussions with the agencies at the city, state, and federal level about what's happening here and actions that they should be pursuing to improve water quality.
Other GCEF-funded projects on the Newtown Creek focused on revitalizing the ecology of this long-abused and neglected waterway. The Living Dock is a popular destination for different kinds of marine wildlife, like grass shrimp, rib mussels, and crabs.
So the basic idea of the Living Dock is to create an empty home, experimenting with different kinds of materials and configurations.
And the Intertidal Wetlands Project is experimenting with ways to bring native grasses back to the creek.
By bringing back these sorts of plants and habitats, we're improving water quality, we're providing vital habitat for the marine organisms that are here as well.
Enhancing Greenpointers' awareness of the environment is the fourth and final top priority identified by the community. GCEF-supported projects included a mural designed by local teens that celebrates Greenpoint's rich history of environmental engagement and activism.
Who here brought in a soil sample?
A series of workshops helped Greenpoint gardeners understand the risks posed by lead in residential soils and learn best practices for reducing them. And GCEF-sponsored bird walks taught Greenpointers young and old about the many bird species that make Greenpoint their home and how to protect them and their habitats.
These guys have just adapted to survive, all winter long.
GCEF funding helped the North Brooklyn Community Boathouse expand their boat tours for schools, community organizations, and the general public, educating hundreds of Greenpointers about the history and ecology of the waterways that surround their community.
Without awareness of the waterway, people can't develop any sort of relationship for it, and therefore it's easier for it to remain in its polluted state.
GCEF also sponsored an innovative project in all 4 of Greenpoint's public schools. The Eco Schools program placed a sustainability coach at each school to help infuse their curriculum with environmental and sustainability education.
We work with the students, teachers, families, administration together in order to sort of make positive environmental changes at the school.
I provide them with outside experts. I provide them with field research. I might take them to a recycling plant. I might take them to an e-waste station. to see them connect the dots and to really get it.
Spanning across 4 academic years, the project has inspired a new generation of environmental advocates and leaders.
I like learning more about the air and how to not to pollute it and keep it clean.
Their exposure to all of this is making them look around their world, around their community, and recognize, where things aren't right, and trying to make it cleaner and more green.
I think this can encourage other kids that, hey, if you start doing this and help the earth, then you can make a big difference.
But GCEF's investment in the Greenpoint community didn't end with its funding of individual projects. GCEF made critical investments to help sustain the local organizations, key to continuing Greenpoint's environmental progress.
It's a beautiful day. Welcome to our 3rd annual GCEF Open House.
Open house events organized by GCEF introduced the projects and the organizations responsible for them to the community. GCEF also sponsored training sessions by a top business management firm so that its grantees could learn how to best grow and sustain their organization's work in the community for years to come. And GCEF gave Greenpoint's local environmental groups something invaluable, an opportunity to prove themselves.
What GCEF has done is given these organizations the confidence and the track record of managing environmental projects. And with that experience, they will be better able to go get grants and deliver on environmental work in a community that still desperately needs environmental attention.
Over its 10 years, and factoring in matching funds contributed by grantees, GCEF succeeded in tripling the $19.5 million in the ExxonMobil settlement, ultimately investing a total of over $67 million in improving Greenpoint's environment.
I have to say it was an A+ work.
GCEF's overwhelming success means that as settlement funds are won for other communities in the future, the approach developed here in Greenpoint, one committed to openness, transparency, and full engagement with the community, can serve as a model.
You can't have neighborhoods change. You can't have good things happen without involving the people of the community. This worked because it was a true partnership with the people of this community.
Beyond the lasting effect that GCEF projects will have on Greenpoint's environment, perhaps the program's greatest legacy will be bringing the community together and helping to equip it with the knowledge and tools needed to sustain the fight for a greener environmental future for Greenpoint.
The environmental challenges for Greenpoint are not going to go away. They're still going to be there. But what the GCEF funding has done is really empower the community to address those challenges in a much more strategic and well-informed way. And that is a fantastic legacy.